Thanks for tuning in to Jin and Tantra Spirituality with a Twist. You have Daniel driving the ship today, and I'm co-piloted by Phaedra. Phaedra, thanks for coming on.
Hi,
And
thanks for having me.
hey, of course, we will be, kind of picking up from where we left off a few weeks ago when Eric and I did an episode on attachment styles in relationships specifically, but then um, coming from your kind of childhood experience and talking about like security and safety, spontaneity, newness, dopamine, serotonin, new relationship energy, things like this in both monogamous relationships in the polyamory community and just in terms of like a dynamism between people as even in a friendship, right? So
Yeah.
Phaedra wanted to dive deeper into this as it kind of struck her deeply last time because here's the thing that's funny is Phaedra has been somebody who's been listening to our work since the very, very beginning, really.
Yeah.
Every year, at the end of the year, Phaedra gets her Wrapped, the Spotify Wrapped, and we're always in the top three every the last few years. So,
Yes.
Phaedra's been rocking with us for a minute, and it's been really fun to have you on. So
Thank you.
with that as a lead in, Phaedra. Oh yeah, like, comment, subscribe, hit that thing, por favor. We need it. You know what I mean? It helps us.
Yes.
So it's free. We don't ask anybody for any money. There's no advertisements here. We're not selling you dildos or meme coins or anything like that. But
You could.
that's right. We would make exactly $3. So, uh, anyways, Faye, take us away, man.
All right. Well, thanks again for having me. And yes, I always love the wraps, and I see Gin and Tantra in there, and I'm like, yay, I'm supporting.
That's awesome.
Anyways, yeah, so the last, obviously all episodes has something that I get out of, but the last episode of your security and spontaneity struck some because you guys kind of started off talking about attachment styles and you were talking about the dopamine, everything you just said. And so I was kind of curious going into the ENM, CNM relationships, which is consensual non-monogamy, ethical non-monogamy, polyamory, all those things that the lifestyle I've chosen for myself at the moment. And so I was like, oh, being secure. And as I was listening, I was like, well, what does security actually mean? So I looked it up. I just looked up the definition, and it was like being secure is control of environment or and feeling free from fear, anxiety, and threats.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, that's kind of cool. Like I feel like that, is a basic, really great, idea of that. Um, and so the fear aspect, I was listening to another podcast called Polyamory
How
Uncensored.
could you, Phaedra?
And what?
I said, how could you?
I
Yeah.
know. I'm sorry.
So,
I'm
what's it?
Polly. What can I
Oh,
say?
you're right. All right, fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough.
I
Sorry.
gotta
Sorry
listen
for
to all
bringing
of.
society into this.
I'm present with you when I'm with you,
Thank you.
okay?
Thank you
I'm,
so much. And I'm happy when to hear about your excursions
your
with others.
compersion is real.
My
Thank
compersion
you.
is genuine.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what's the name of
Um,
this podcast again? I'm sorry.
So it's polyamory uncensored, and it's two doctors. There's a psychotherapist and a relationship therapist.
Okay.
And so I'm getting into it because they're just speaking my language right now.
Yeah.
And one thing he said about fear, um, being free from fear, because that's such a big thing about being secure, right? And
Right.
insecurities, they rise from these fears, like you talked about before, especially as a child, usually.
Mm-hmm.
And they did an acronym, which is false evidence appearing real.
Hmm.
And I was
Okay.
like, whoa, that hit me. I'm like, false evidence appearing real. What a really great way to like define what fear is, because it's like, these stories we make up in my head.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask this person out because they're not going to like me, because I'm not good enough, because
Oh
I don't
yeah.
do this, because I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
fit into
Yeah.
their stand. And then you
Yeah.
can keep going on
Oh
any
yeah, for
aspect of
sure.
life.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, they're fancy. They're too, like you put them up on a pedestal, like
Yep.
and you're like, oh, I'm gonna just move on now. They'll never like me anyways. Let me just keep going.
Totally. And
Yeah,
then people that should be together don't ever get together because that other person is like, well, I'm not going to ask her out because I'm not this, I'm not that, and the story keeps going.
Yeah. Or
But
at
that,
the Faydra simultaneously, I'm not going to try this thing.
yeah, oh, yeah,
You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna right like I'm not going to go to this place. I don't want to try this sexual thing. I don't want to go to do this. Because again, it's like I heard a story about it, or I have some feeling that is unbased on
yeah,
anything in particular. It keeps us limited for sure,
yeah.
especially
This
in love.
person didn't like it. This person said this about this, and so I'm not going to do it. And it's like, why? Like, you don't know. I mean, this person likes this stuff, but you're still friend. Like, just because they said something doesn't
Yeah.
mean that you're necessarily. But we start doubting,
Yes.
and putting that in our head.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so the security part, and being secure in any relationship, whether you're monogamous, non-monogamous, I think it's hard, regardless if it's one person, two
Yeah.
people, you have a whole orbit of people you're with. I mean, where does that security start? Because everyone's so different. And I believe it really starts, it's not the whole thing, but it really can start, with ourselves and understanding um, who we are at our core and
Right.
we always talk about doing the work, and
Right.
working on ourselves. And it's not just doing the work. We can do all the work. You can do all the workbook in your workbook and all the things,
Yeah.
but then not apply it. And I think that's a big difference. Um, and so I feel like a good starting place and is something that you people may or may not have heard of, but we talked about last time attachment.
Yeah.
And I was really pretty hell bent on saying that attachment was like a negative thing. And for the most part, I mean, I feel like it was, but there really is in the four styles of attachment, there is a secure attachment style, an anxious, an avoidant, and a disorganized, which is like a mix between the anxious and avoidant.
Can you say a little more about
That
each of them, just to give a little bit of background?
Yeah, so secure is feeling safe, supported. Um, you're usually these people are warm and friendly, and they're very communicative. And their childhood, these people basically in their childhood, they felt safe, seen, soothed, and supported. So, the perfect mix. Um,
We could
these,
say
I think,
if
go
we
ahead.
could say maybe on this one that these were children who did not experience the fear that their parents would not return,
Yeah, yeah, yep,
that there was a they didn't worry about that for whatever
no,
reason, right? It does now
yeah,
that could be for numerous reasons, right? Dangerous
numerous.
job or whatever. But for even if someone's parents come back regularly, right, on a daily basis, they still freak out, or they go to day camp, they can't handle it, whatever.
Yeah, there's that separation anxiety,
Yeah,
and however that arises, um, and I have some friends who their children are experiencing this
yeah,
right now,
yeah.
and there's a lot of stuff going on in the world, in the adult world, and kids see everything, we do as children, we see everything. We may not comprehend it or understand, and it comes out in other ways because we can't communicate that to our parents out of fear or just not understanding. But it comes out in ways like this, where it's like this attachment. So this is where it starts at, whatever age.
Childhood.
So yeah, so with secure and I would even, and I'm okay, I'm not a doctor. I don't know these things. This is just from my own experience. I also wonder if there's a certain age in these formative years, like from ages, 1 to 5, there's something. So maybe age 5 to 7, if those are formative. So maybe there is a change in our attachment style because something happened during those 2 years, or like 9 to 12, or, like there's
Sure.
specific times of our evolution or our growth that this is going to impact us more than when we're like 8 or something like that.
And don't forget, Phaedra, I would be remiss if I didn't bring this into the conversation because I'm always reminded of it because it is who I is.
Yeah.
We also inherit traits.
Yes.
And so it yes, there's the age component that's important, and I think we might even go back further and talk about infancy and response to the child's needs.
Yeah.
There was a big kind of push. I don't know when it was, that maybe the 60s or 70s. Dr. Spock, talking
Mhm.
about let kids cry it out, and
Yeah.
this has all been debunked. You know, they don't have the ability to reason. So it does things to the infant. But even going pre-infancy, right? We inherent tendencies, genetic material that was influenced by epigenetics in previous
Yeah,
generations. And so I'm it would be impossible for me to accept any argument, and not that they're doing this, but
yeah,
impossible to accept any argument that doesn't also say they might have been born this way and then the
fair.
reality that they experienced made it worse,
That
because of
makes,
previous parent died, the father died in of
yeah,
at a young age, or a famine, or who knows, because the world was in it's in a dark time, but even in comparison, there were times where famine and illness were ravaged
oh
areas
yeah,
like crazy. Um so yeah, anyways,
yeah.
that's
No, I totally believe that because I think on scales of everything. I mean, we as humans have pieces of our generations from, what happened to our mothers, to our grandmothers and
yes.
grandparents. I mean, there's so much genetic material that we're carrying and passing on, whether it be fears and like anxiety, like certain name
Yeah.
any of them. And so yeah, I think that this would definitely be coded in there somewhere as well.
Sure.
So that's fair. Um, so yeah, so secure, when it comes to secure attachment styles, there's someone, and I think Eric said on your podcast that it's been said that there's like 50% of people that take tests are in a secure, to have a secure attachment style. I did take the attachment test and I do come up secure, but as I was taking it, I was also looking at my former self answers and was like, oh, this is what I would have answered last year. And it's completely different,
Mm,
100% different. So I was like, I've grown a little. So yay for
good.
Faye.
And secure doesn't mean monogamous. Let's be
Now,
clear. Right.
yeah. But
Talking, yeah,
within the
no.
relationships,
Yes,
yeah,
I was
no,
just
that's
gonna
a
say.
good point. But
Yeah.
within the relationships that I have, I show up, in a healthier manner. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure there's still things that aren't, but
Yeah.
so moving on, there's anxious. So if you're an anxious attachment person, and I've actually heard some of my friends use this to describe themselves, it's clingy, anxious, they crave intimacy and love, and it's very hard for them to be single. So this might be the person that's like, if you're monogamous, you're like a serial monogamous. So it's
Yes. Yeah.
like one relationship, whatever, which I've seen myself,
Yes.
be in the past.
Yeah.
And then this, as a child, would say that they had inconsistent caregivers. So this could be parents, this could be whoever they grew up with, like the love or the attention from those caregivers is inconsistent.
Yeah.
So I could see that. Like you were saying before, you don't know where it's coming from, when it's coming. Um, so you're always like searching. So you're just like, let me get it fast because I don't know what's going to come back.
Yeah.
Um,
Sounds like a lot of men.
I ain't saying nothing. You you can say that. Avoidance is the third. So emotionally distant, reluctant to depend. So like I can do everything on my own.
Yeah.
I don't need you for anything. Don't open my car door for me.
Oh,
Don't open the door to the restaurant. Don't pay my bill. No, always pay my bill,
yeah.
but don't do anything else.
Yeah. Exactly.
Um, so this was a lack from childhood, a lack of emotional support or connection. You know, and we can say there's like a latchkey, us latchkey kids. I don't think that was a lack of emotional support. That was us just taking care of ourselves, but
Right.
some may have seen that as lack.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's the disorganized, which is actually a mix of the anxious avoidant. And so they may not have very coherent social behavior. And this shows up a lot in adults who are children, consequence of trauma and abuse.
Okay.
So
Response to
yeah, yes, exactly. And God, I I don't I mean I can't really like say that there's many there's a whole lot of us that probably fit this category of disorganized until we
yeah.
do the work, right?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so those are the four attachment styles, and I think this is really a great place to start with oneself, um, to work on security,
Yeah.
because what's that old saying? Is like you can't change, you can't like, no, I can't think of it.
But you can't
Um,
change the spots on a leopard.
No, but it's totally relevant. Like you can't change like someone else's reaction. You can only change, your perception. So maybe starting when it comes to security is just like starting there. Um, so I think those are good things. So and there's so many tests on Google and don't pay for them because there's so many free ones. So if you
Yeah.
go on there and you Google a test, don't pay for them. Um, so yeah, so what do you have like so now we went through that.
Yep.
Anything you want to go ahead and add?
No, no, other than the fact that like I have a meta thought here for a moment. So
Okay.
we're recording this right now live. Okay. Then somebody else is going to, and multiple somebodies are going to watch the video. They're going to see the clips. They're going to see whatever, right? Posted on YouTube, on Spotify, on our Instagram pages, on wherever else they might get their podcast, or they know us, they see us, right? And so we are sharing things that are interesting to us. And so we dive in and learn a little bit more. And then we're sharing that with other people who find this interesting. And then they'll probably have conversations with this around somebody else.
Yeah.
And that might find it interesting. And it might go one more layer, right? That they might share something that they tied a conversation about with a friend who heard something when they were listening to a podcast. So just the understanding of the ripple effect of this,
Yeah.
never ceases to amaze me that there's probably
Love
three or four layers of effect that everybody who does this kind of thing has. You know what I'm saying?
it.
And it's
Yeah.
just a matter of finding similar nodes in the ether of things that you're interested in to keep you engaged in your own internal work, so that you can find yourself in a secure place in whatever kind of attachment style you're looking to have. So
Huh.
that's how you loop it back, just like that.
Yeah. That was so sweet. That was lovely. Thanks, Danielle.
Yeah, of course.
You say nice things so many
Oh,
times.
thank you. Okay, so
It,
that's the attachment styles.
yeah. So I guess from there, kind of going back in my notes, I think if we go back to, I mean, I guess in any, so E&M security is like a huge concept because it's like um
Well, we could just say relationships in
I
general.
would say relationships in
Yeah,
general. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, everyone, you don't want to be with someone for the most part, unless it's your kink. You don't want to be with someone that you're not feeling secure with.
yeah,
Um, I don't know if that's a kink, but maybe I just made one up.
yeah.
But I think that um, it, when we're talking about monogamous or non-monogamous, that's like a first thing. Like, do I feel safe, secure,
Yep,
and free of fear with this person,
yeah,
um, or people? And it fluxes, I think, because there's moments when, you're showing up for a person, and yes, I feel safe and secure in these moments. And then all of a sudden, we like something happens, conversation and like a experience happens between the two or three or four of you, and all of a sudden it's gone. So then what do we do? Do we, okay, this is wrong and I'm out? Or
usually
do
that way.
we, is there blame? Do we blame, shame, and guilt the other person and say, you did something, you have to change? Um, or is it, do we have a responsibility within ourselves to also take a step back and be like, okay, what just happened? You know, how, like, what was my like take yourself out of that experience for a second to really look at it and take a breather and a step, to feel secure in like yourself and your own thoughts in person so that you can show up for your partner or partners in that moment.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, I think I
Well,
mean that's where I come from, like my mode of thinking right now.
yeah. Well, a couple things. One, security is important, especially, and I can't. I'm just gonna give you my assumption that, like, as a straight dude dealing with, women's, security is basically a necessity for sexuality, right?
Yeah.
Or sensuality, we could say. That's a necessity. And when then okay, so that's that. Or if we could call it, let's say intimacy. Okay, so we can
Yeah.
get into the relationship part, not just the sexual portion. So security is a necessity for intimacy. All right, so now that we're entering into the relationship, so it could be emotional intimacy, could be physical intimacy, but you have to feel safe and without fear, right? In order
Yeah.
for you to be able to let go and let this person, do whatever the things that you guys want to do to each other. But when that is damaged for whatever reason, right? Whether that damage be for lying, infidelity, weird thought, mistake, genuine mistake, or intentional, right? Then I believe at that moment, then you can directly link that back to the attachment styles.
Yeah.
I believe that the secure attachment person will look at the situation and either do the internal work to say this is on me or say this person made a mistake and now I'm going to go through things of forgiving them. The kind of like, what were the other two? Anxious and avoidant?
Anxious and avoidant, and
Yeah.
then
And
disorganized, which is like a mix between the two.
yeah, so the anxious person is going to do what you were saying, which is like, back and forth, kind of like not so sure. Right. Yeah. And
Red flag, red flag.
yeah. And then the avoidant person, yeah, they're going to cut and run. And that's how these attachment styles rear their heads all the time in different people's relationships. Again, monogamous, non-monogamous, it's always a pair, even if there's more than one pair when you're dealing emotionally with this kind of
Yeah.
thing. That's it. And it becomes very difficult when you have people who have uh, anxious personalities and avoidant, attachment styles together. And the weird part is, you only know when the tensions are high and you're not really paying attention. You're just
Fight or flight.
reacting. In that phase, then you know who you are. Maybe
Yep.
the other person definitely does know exactly who you are, especially after like two good fights. Then you can
Yep.
see. But
Yep.
you may never know if someone doesn't tell you, right? You just be like, you know what? I just want to keep the peace. I'm going to go to the other room. Well, you don't
Uh-huh.
realize you're avoiding,
Avoidant.
right? You have no
Yeah.
idea what that is, but it's a very common thing. So these are common. These are super super common.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And just thinking back, I mean, I know that when I'm kind of like as I'm listening to you, I'm just going back. I'm just doing like one of those montages in my head from like a movie where I'm just going back to all these different years of like my avoidant stages and my
Yeah.
anxious stages. And to very, recently until I started, just really diving deep into the last couple of years of this. That's one thing that E&M has really helped me because uh, for 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 to go against stereotypes. uh E&M is not just all about like the sexy times. This has been like all about self-discovery,
Sure.
like, and so much conversation,
Yes.
so much like sharing, and it's so beautiful and wonderful, and hard, but God, hard, but like lovely hard, like so worth it,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's worth it
Juicy.
because I'm showing up better for myself. And I think just even in my vanilla life,
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so like going back and just thinking about all these ways that I've showed up and like, God, I wish I would have said this better. I wish I would have asked these questions, or I wish I would have, shown up for him better this way, or and it's like, and I don't regret anything, but
Of
it's
course not.
like we can go back and just really think about our own growth, and I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so I guess like next, how security can show up in relationships, period, is like, um in one ways, this is, something I was thinking about, specific, not specific to E&M, but specific to, I think, just relationships. And I think this is, while I might be speaking to my experiences now, but I think about this even in, when before this in other relationships, and like there's a like comparing, so um, I think comparing in the E&M, CNM world would be, comparing yourself or myself to metamors. And metamors is a term. I don't think we went over this, but
No, we did not.
metamor, what I mean by metamor is that I have three partners or whatever number it is, even like two partners. They're each other's metamor. So they're not, well, they could be dating each other, but they don't really have much to do with each other, but they're both seeing me. So they're
Right.
each other's metamor. So, and anyone that one of my partners is dating, that's my metamor. And so I love that term. It sounds like very like
Yeah, I was gonna say there's
cool.
definitely a slang for this, you
I
know.
know. I like it. So there's one of the concepts that comes up with that is like this comparing, right? Which
Mhm.
I also can put in the realm of
Jealousy?
being with in monogamy with men and women who have friends.
Right, yeah.
And as a female, like, oh, well, you have this female friend that you've had way before we even got together, but all of a sudden I'm going to become like comparing myself to this woman, and
Oh yeah.
which I think happens a lot.
It happens a lot.
Um,
People say all
and
the time,
men,
no, no,
yeah,
no friends of the opposite sex. None.
yeah, which is so dangerous. Anyways, we're not talking about it. Well, we kind of are, but and so I think that the comparing is a really big sign of like there's going to always be a lack of security if, and this is kind of us starting with ourselves, right? Like
Right.
something to look at before we just jump to conclusions that it's always the other person that's not creating a secure
Right.
boundary because or a security. Because it's like, okay, well, I'd be secure, honey, if you would just not have any more friends. Like, oh, we're getting married. Well, you can't have any more female friends. What? Like, that's not, that's my problem. That's not like my partner's problem. And then in the E&M world, me comparing myself to Metamore like, okay, well, he has or she has, all these other people. And like, oh, well, they have a PhD and like own like a horse ranch somewhere. And
Yeah.
like this person has a mansion somewhere and this person has this sweet,
Yeah.
place downtown. And all of a sudden, I'm just like making myself smaller and smaller. This has nothing to do with my person.
Right.
This is all me like having these false beliefs and this
Yeah.
lack of confidence in myself.
Yeah.
So that's somewhere to start too. And then with friendships, when it comes to monogamy, I mean, maybe your partner, there's a reason why. But if you're using that reason because something happened, then once again, that's maybe something that is way past them having friends and there's something else there.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that
Jealousy.
comparing mechanism is just really like harmful and
Of
just
course.
something to look at, just something to question in oneself.
Yeah.
Like, are we comparing?
Those are the seeds of jealousy, right? That's what that is. And in my, in my mind and in my experience, jealousy is something that wants to create wants to create more bound. It's attempting to make itself feel safe, right?
Oh,
It's a
yeah.
it's a protective mechanism. So you're doing this thing because, so stop doing, I'm going to make sure you don't do that thing. But ultimately it's insatiable. It's an insatiable thing.
Yes.
It's a desire for something that is inherently unattainable. This idea of complete safety. It's
Yeah.
because then the question is like, okay, well, what are you thinking about, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it moves somebody to a smaller and smaller island that they can exist, that is untouched by their partner, and that
Uncharted. Yeah.
yeah, uncharted territory by their
Uncharted.
partner. But the partner
Yeah.
doesn't want that kind of a thing, and so it becomes a very kind of toxic situation that can often lead to other aspects.
Yeah.
But having conversations like this brings up really good opportunities to discuss what is our relationship, and what is and is not acceptable, tolerable, and why, so that you
Yeah.
have these conversations, so that is not that is not a thing. Like I was reading again one of those Esther Perel books, and she was encouraging some couples to use fantasy while they were
Oh,
having sex
yeah.
with each other.
Yep.
But like if you didn't hear that from a therapist, I don't know. I don't have these. So, I mean, I don't have so many conversations like that. Now I'm having more of them now, but I never
Yeah.
had these kind of conversations with the friend. Like, oh, you've been with your partner for X number of years. Who are you thinking about when you're doing it? I've never done. I've never done that. And the
Oh,
only
I've
times
had
that
so, yeah.
the only times that like my I would have thought about it, not in the moment, but later, I would always ask myself, oh, does that feel wrong? Is that wrong? Am I
Yeah.
wrong for doing that? You know what I'm saying? Because what if that person, are they doing it? Who are they?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it becomes, it just like, the point is that like these conversations are very, they have an opportunity to bring you much, much closer with your partner, so long as that you can actually be vulnerable and hold space for them while they're being vulnerable too. So not judge and not
Yeah.
blame and not shame them for their things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I 100% agree with that. And on the same trajectory there, I had a conversation with a girlfriend of mine, and in a sexual sense, she was talking about she's monogamous. She's been married for years, and we were out one day, and I always bring up the conversations that no one has with their friends because I love to talk about everything, and I think I allow safety in
Sure.
conversations.
Yeah.
And so she was bringing up like her sex life with her husband and that she wanted to have, use a toy. And he was like, but why? Like, and it made him feel very insecure.
Yeah.
And he had a huge problem with it. And I was like, but doesn't he want you to like be like pleasured and have you like go through all this? And it's like, it's still him in there,
Right.
like, but it's such a, like, he's still doing the work.
Yeah.
It's just an added thing because our bodies as a woman, a lot of times we don't, like we can get into all that, but it's it's just an added like fun thing. And I was like, well, that's something, an aspect that you guys really should talk about and not just, and she's
Yeah.
like, no, it's like that. And she was like avoiding it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, but you guys, first of all, you're married. What are you scared of? Like, he's not going to like want a divorce because you're talking about, the toy thing. But like, this is an opportunity to really like enhance and bring that
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
And I think it was a wonderful, and I was so happy that she shared that. And she's like, okay, she was like listening, and she's like, you're right. Like, I'm like, it is your body, and you deserve pleasure, and however he wants to be pleased, like then you can ask him, well, is there anything you want more, and I'm like, use this, don't just like
Yeah.
put your hands up in the air. Like, that happens, I think, so much. It's like we just are like, well, fuck it, we're not going to want it, he doesn't want it, she doesn't want it, so we're just not going to discuss it, and
Yeah.
it's
It's
going to suck. Yeah.
it's not going to work out well. I mean, it really not. I mean, the other thing is that when you're, when you're married with somebody like that, like they are your partner for everything. So yes, they're your dance partner for sure. So if you want to learn how to do something new, they got to go along with you. You want to salsa,
Yes.
you got to take that person to salsa. If you got some kinks that you are interested in acting out, they got to be into it. Like
Yeah.
they have to get along with this. So get the bowl, put on these cat ears and this, and shave your body down.
Put on that unicorn mask.
Yeah, get this thing going, and start pooping in a litter box. So, that's just that's what you signed up
Oh,
for,
my God, that's a whole
till death
different.
do us part, brother.
Wow. Whoa. There's a whole lot of stuff there. That was great. That
Yeah.
was awesome. Yeah, maybe that'll be an episode. We'll just start talking about that.
Oh my God.
Um, Fun stuff. But yeah, so I think the comparing, um that's like one big thing in being safe. And along with comparing, we talk about competing.
Yeah.
And so first off, we have these, comparing creates these false beliefs about ourselves and where we stand in our relationship, whether it be monogamous or non-monogamous.
Yeah.
Now we deal with competing. In monogamy, competing could be, I mean, anything. I mean, we think about just us as humans. Some of us are really competitive people, and we end up getting in a relationship with someone who's a go-getter, a business, an entrepreneur. And while we always are like, babe, I got you, I always want to be supportive, like, okay, he's doing better, and then she's doing, and then there's this like, there's a competition between That or like maybe she has more friends and goes out with her friends. So now he's like, well, or she and she, whatever, the relationship is.
Yeah.
One partner's like goes out with friends a lot, and the other one's like, well, that's not fair. I don't feel secure anymore, so I'm going to go. And then it becomes this competition, which
Sure.
is definitely not a secure thing to have this competition. But once again, those are now on our own anxiety, our avoidance, a mixture of the both, and then our own, false beliefs.
Yeah.
In the non-monogamous world, not only can that come with our partner, but once again, we talk about metamors and competing with, like I said, well, she has this and he has that, and so now it's this competition on, well, where we're supposed to be in this compersion mindset. Um, well, is she telling her more than she's telling me, or is she
Right.
telling him?
Right.
And now we're just we're competing on like, well, I got to be better and I got to be the best and I got to do this.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, chill. Like just be you because your partner's with you because they love you and they like you or whatever your dynamic is, or that,
Yeah.
you're just really good at some fun things, who knows?
Special skills.
But yes, special skill set. And this is where the discussion and the communication comes in too, but I think that competition, while there can always be a healthy bit of competition, when you start doubting who you are and you don't feel safe and secure anymore, it's kind of a big problem.
Yeah, the competition part, if it drives you to be a better whatever, then it's good.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
that's a positive aspect, but if it drives you to, again, it moves almost backwards into the comparison thing.
yeah,
If it makes you feel insecure, then you have to really find out why that's the case.
yeah, yeah,
So and again, but again, being able to have these discussions with people, if you can do it, you can allow
yeah,
yourself to be seen, and then this can be a good thing. So if you're finding out that you're jealous of your partner's friend, well, and you can figure out why that is the case and express it, well, then that is an opportunity for then you guys to bond over that particular thing. I mean, if you're going to do the monogamy thing, I mean, any kind of it doesn't really matter. If you're going to be in a
yeah,
relationship, do it well. Why
yeah.
why why not do it well? I mean, I've always, I'm not always. I have found that the deeper your connection with somebody, especially if it's a longer term thing, again, monogamous, non monogamous doesn't matter. We're going to talk about this probably in a second here, but like in order to when are you most excited? In the beginning of the relationship, right? And what did you call this? NRE?
Yeah, new relationship energy.
New relationship energy. So in the beginning, you're excited. Everything is new. The person is a mystery. It's always a surprise. You're getting these little dopamine pops all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, they like that too. Oh my god, I love that. Oh, we had such a wonderful time. Oh man, we had. Oh my god, it was so great. And so I get a message from them. I get have a conversation with them. You're excited because you don't
Yeah.
know what they're going to say until you get to learn them, and then you learn them a little bit more than you like them, and then oh, now we like each other. So it's good. Eventually, you get used to them. It's not that you
Yeah.
don't like them less. It's just you get used to them, and so that new relationship energy, that NRE and time are
Oh, yeah.
yeah, inversely related, really.
Yeah.
And so this is when people get used to they become complacent is
Yeah.
basically what happens.
Was like the 7 year itch, right? In relationships, it's like 3 years, 7 years, like every year, something like that. It's said that, yep, they were together 7 years. That's kind of like the thing.
Yeah.
Um,
And so
so
the onus then on whichever whatever the dynamic is to regularly touch that state, right?
yep,
Is to it's two parts. It's to regularly touch that state, and then literally is to regularly be touching, because that moves you from that kind of like dopamine sugar
yeah,
burst thing over into the serotonin part, over into the oxytocin part, because they become an extension of your nervous system essentially, and can be that regulating factor that makes the comfort feel really good. But
Yeah.
comfort only, makes you lazy. And
Yeah.
new energy only is not secure, which is partly why it's so exciting.
Exciting.
And so you
Hmm.
have this dichotomous balance on the scale of like safety, comfort, laziness,
Yeah.
and then excitement, newness, spontaneity, fear.
Yeah.
And so where is it? Where does this balance happen? Because the longer that you stay with somebody, the more that you move over to the other side.
This side.
Not possible. If your relationship is good, you should be moving to that side.
Hmm.
And so, you know, um, yeah, we talked about this before, but it's such a real thing. It really
Yeah.
is.
So that I guess then enters that idea. Whoa, crazy hair. That enters that idea of like the spontaneity, right?
Yes.
Is like just those little boom, boom, those little things where it's a surprise. And
Yes.
I love surprises. Surprises are my favorite.
Yeah.
um, and I agree. I think that's it's so lovely to feel that security in that long time.
Yes.
Um, but that newness, that like sitting on your bed like a teenager, like with your feet going back and forth, like texting, I mean, I do that. Still. Oh my God, what did George have to say?
Yeah.
But it's cute and it feels good. And yeah, like you're saying, like you and Eric were talking about that dopamine response. It's like, God, dopamine is the best like drug
It's the
ever.
best.
Jesus, bottle it up. They probably do. I'm just kidding. You probably take dopamine pills. Um or shots, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the little aspects in monogamy. I mean, I can speak from experience. Like I was always making new friends, always was allowed that freedom of like having friends and being like, oh, male or female, whatever they were. And that really triggered my dopamine because it was just like, oh, regardless of, what it was always like I just always like meeting people and
Right.
then like hanging
Right.
out, whatever. Now in this part of my life where I've chosen to be solo poly, like I can see why so many people why they would choose um you know couples choosing to open up their marriage
Sure.
because that little bit, even if it's just like a one-time thing and they're not looking for something that's consistent,
Right.
that one-time thing was fun, it was exciting, this person wanted us, we wanted them,
Yeah.
yada yada yada.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um Being able to, what I am finding is that like, you know time management is a real thing,
Also.
but it's lovely to find people, and I'm really enjoying my partners right now and getting to know them. And because we have days and times that we'll see each other, and we talk on the phone or text all
Wow.
the time,
Yeah.
but it's always like what's going on, and I'm really good at scheduling and like compartmentalizing that, but it always just feels good and special. you know um I've not been seeing these people, you know a couple of them a long time, one a very long time, but even that long time relationship is so much more like
Yes.
fun and spontaneous. It's like it's everything spontaneous. Like there's
It's
there's
not
no
secure.
lack because getting to know each other, we have serious conversations and serious things that happen because this isn't just about the fun. This is also getting to know someone, loving someone, having them a part of your life. And I'm
But
so
it's not secure.
right. But we're growing to make like I have a partner and then we're growing to make that secure, and I do have security. And it's not yet, yes, if you're talking about timeline, yes, it's not secure yet because it's only been so long. However, the steps and how I navigate these relationships and how I ask questions and how I get to know someone, I move quickly through that because it's like, yeah, this is all great. Let me find out all this stuff because I know I realize that the dopamine is great, I love those drops, but keep on doing that. But now I need to know like the nitty gritty, all the
Of
things.
course.
So it's a weird, I don't think weird, but it's just I'm realizing that in us talking right now. I'm like, geez, like I move kind of quickly because I think all that's important. And as much as I love the dopamine, like that serotonin aspect of it is also real nice because I like to just chill and like know where I stand, you know?
Well, there's that
Um,
that part in a monogamous relationship has to be tended to. So even if you're
yes.
with these people, once you move past the whatever year and a half, six, whatever it is, everybody's
Mhm.
living different. You have to do the work that keeps that person fresh. There has to be some space between you and the other person, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
we say spontaneity, but really you're doing a lot of planning. You're doing a lot of planning. And
Yep.
so you set the time and you set your intention to spend time with this person. And then what arises, right? But you have set that
Yep.
spark. You've set the opportunity for the spark to occur. In a more traditional monogamous relationship, as you move over to the security side, you are far less motivated to do the things that you once did in order to continue
Yeah.
that ball, right? And I forgot where it was. Maybe it was in a Esther Perel. I forgot which book, but it takes, or maybe she pulled it from somewhere. But it takes two people to tend the flame of Eros.
Yep.
And
I've read
I
her.
was like, that's
Uh-huh.
on the money because
Yep.
it is very true. It's a 50%, it's a
It
fifty
is.
percent job for each person. And people always love to blame the other person. They love to do that. That is like, completely, it's avoidant, but it's probably the most common one in
Oh,
the
for sure.
in this arena because no one, not no one, few people are going to be like, yeah, I ruined it. I ruined it. I ruined it. I know. Sorry. I farted in bed, like, right. You know what I'm saying? Like, no one's going to,
Yes, I do. 100%.
people are not going to do this. And partly is because they're not doing it intentionally. So it's you're hesitant to take responsibility for something that was not great, A, and B, likely was done unintentionally. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? But the other half of this, okay, if you're not taking responsibility because you don't believe you have the intentionality behind it, which I believe is most people. I don't think people be in a long-term relationship and be like, "Oh, our sex life sucks." That's exactly what I want. I love terrible sex or not at all. That sounds amazing. Woo!
Amazing.
Yeah,
Woo.
like no. But then the problem is that it doesn't really get discussed.
Nope.
Where it's like, where are people learning it? Who's teaching them? You're not getting it in school. You're definitely not getting it from your parents. I mean, maybe if you have a very strong partnership that you're a child of that has very strong PDA, you'll see this. But there are plenty of couples that don't do a bunch of PDA and are really great.
Mm,
So that's personal preference and cultural also.
yeah.
Cultures do not, if you're from a different culture, they do not do that. That is no.
No.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So you may not be you know it may not be introduced to you. So then
Yeah.
where do you find it? Oftentimes through failure.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, if I would have known then what I know now, things would be, again, we can't go back,
Yeah.
harkening to our conversation earlier.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
I do.
You cannot go back. And so now that you learn these things, you get to apply it moving forward. And
Yep.
that is like, it's a gift, but only if you see it as a gift. If you're
Yep.
secure and you can go, all right, I'm finna take on what I could take on for me, and then I can own some responsibility, and then give away
Yeah.
the stuff that I cannot, then you can find yourself in a better place moving forward. But otherwise, it's very, very difficult to learn. It's very difficult to learn. And I'm speaking, I'm speaking 100% for real.
Yep.
Understanding that there are people who know me, who know my life, who are listening to this. I didn't know. I mean, I genuinely mean that. I didn't know, and I highly doubt that I am the only one. I
That's
highly
fair.
doubt it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And so it's just so we share this here, and if you've gotten this far in the podcast, congratulations, your attention span is within the top 5% of all human beings. But this is some real shit. Like if you have something that you value, right, and I'm talking about relationship again, poly or monogamous,
Hmm.
you have to put the work in to keep those sparks going. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it goes without saying, but it's not even about. It's not even for the other person. It's for yourself.
Yeah.
Is for yourself. So
Yeah.
it's simple and it's something that, oh, yeah, I'm sure we all think about. But until you actually go through and make it a pattern and then do it yourself, like trying new things, trying new restaurants, trying,
Yeah.
whatever, putting on weird clothes, you know what I'm saying? Um,
I do. I
yeah,
do.
then it becomes difficult. It becomes difficult to have it only as a relationship experience. I think it kind of has to penetrate your life in general, so that your
Yeah.
mindset of taking on newness and creating the opportunity for spontaneity to arise. Because if you're eating at the same places all the time, and you're seeing each other in the same clothes all the time, and you're going to the same, whatever, taking the same food all the
Everything.
time, it becomes routine. And,
Yep.
sometimes routine is great because, you find time to be spontaneous, like a nooner, on a Tuesday, which is
Noon
fine.
on a Tuesday.
Right. But then,
Afternoon delight.
right. But if you're not in that, if you're not in that spontaneous, erotic state on a regular basis, Tuesday at noon is always going to be 1 minute before 12:01. And that has no
Yep.
value to anybody else. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's my,
I and that's really cute because it's like, when does that then become, now it's expected? Okay, well, we're doing this spontaneous thing every Tuesday at noon. So now it's just like an integral part of your
yeah,
pattern, your like schedule. And I get it. We as humans are so busy. We have kids, we have things like,
yeah,
but there's always something that can be done. And
sure.
in whatever that is, talk about it.
Yeah,
I mean, I've not always been the best communicator. I've tried, but I just, was a very emotional communicator and also avoided a lot of communication.
yeah,
So, yeah, I think I wish I would have like communicated a little bit better. Um, whatever. Moving forward, though, I don't.
yeah,
I know that I do now.
yeah,
And so I can relate and I can put that into my relationships moving forward. And I have. And it feels really good because I do feel secure with myself,
yeah,
and then the relationships are reflecting the security I have for myself because I'm able to be open and honest and feel seen and feel heard. And when I'm not, it's a full body no.
right,
If I'm not feeling safe with someone, I'm not waiting for potential anymore. And I've said that
right. Yeah,
before. Like,
yeah,
if
yeah,
there, it's just, you don't like, maybe one chance, like, let me tell you this, and then depending on like how it goes, but I don't have time to like wait to see.
sure.
It's like, no, I mean, we have the discussion. If you can talk to me like a grown human being and we can talk about it and get through it, that's amazing. If you're showing me that you're still dealing with your childhood traumas through the way that you respond to me,
Yeah,
I'm good.
right. My
You know,
two things. My one of my friends, they have sexy. He says, "Well," I said, "What do you got this weekend?" He goes, "Well, you know what it is. It's sexy Saturday, whether she needs it or not." Fucking love that. I love that.
that's whether she needs it or not. I love it.
Yeah, yeah,
That's amazing. Good
yeah.
for them. See,
It's
that's too. That's great.
Yeah, yeah. So it takes that kind of thing. So, anyways, I know we'll be wrapping up here, Phaedra. If there's anything else you wanted
Yeah.
to,
No, I think today was like really, we got through all the things that we discussed, and I think it was pretty thorough. So I'm happy with it.
awesome. Well,
Yeah.
thanks for being the driver today. I appreciate it, and
Thanks for giving me the gloves.
yeah, of course. And everybody, thanks for tuning in. Hit the subscribe thing. If you're not, share our work if you find it interesting. Send us a message on leave a comment in the YouTube video or hit us up at the Gin and Tantra podcast or for something a little bit more with depth, you could certainly email us at ginandtantra@gmail.com. We appreciate everybody tuning in, man. This is definitely a labor of love, so please share the love. For Faydra, this is Daniel. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.